Good day. Ira Epstein with your SPDR ETF wrap-up. And this wrap-up is for Sunday evening. I'm late, but I was out of town in and out this weekend, so I apologize for that. But it is Sunday evening. It is the 22nd of May, 2022. So you're going to hear more news about some of the schools, like in Philadelphia, now having to put on masks again. You're hearing that type of news. Probably some cities are going to weigh, do they go back to masks in public places, in other words, enclosed ones? That wouldn't surprise me at all. I don't know if the airplanes will go back to the rule or not. You know, there's a legal challenge to all that, and we'll see where that carries. I know in Evanston, Illinois, where Northwestern University is, right outside the city here, that high school, I mentioned it a week ago, went back to wearing masks. So we're getting that surge again. And what people don't do is, you know, because we didn't have any real noise about COVID for so long, probably a month and a half, that's a long time, I'll bet that the rate of vaccinations was falling. And if people don't get it, they have to. President Biden is right. He's trying to get money because in the fall you might get another mutation. He wants the money in place and the vaccines ready to go should that happen. And I'm sure that the manufacturers are all working with that. But these are the headwinds you're facing. That's why I'm bringing all this up. You know, you've got Ukraine. If you read the news over the weekend, there's no real changes. In NATO, we saw that President Erdogan of Turkey, he has a great hand to play here. Sweden and Finland have applied in order to make it. Everybody else wants them, but it takes only one country to have a veto, and Turkey's doing that. He wants them to give up support for the PPK. He wants some armaments not being embargoed against him, and minor other things. But those, as I understand it, are the two big issues. Can they be overcome? Yes. Will they? Probably. Finland just had on Friday its gas shut off by Russia to it. Now, they didn't want to pay for it in the way that other countries have. Many of the countries have gone to the Gazprom bank, you know that, and they pay in dollars and the bank converts over to rubles. They don't. So they're able to stay within the boundaries that the European Union has set that they can't break. But not all the different countries want to do it. Many are already done with Russia. They don't want to give them money. They're disgusted with them. And believe it or not, that news on Finland, they were prepared for it. If you read about it, yes, it's going to hurt a little bit, but they've been making these plans ever since this happened, the invasion. And many countries think this invasion thing's just going to go on through at least the end of this year. That seems to be what I am reading about this. It depends which way President Putin wants to swing gears on it. You know, as long as the people in Russia support him, and everything I'm reading, they do support him. Yes, there's some breakaways, but you get that on everything. But until he loses that support, forget it. Now, where the pain starts is May 25th. Because after May 25th, if Treasury Secretary Yellen follows through, that special circumstance that allowed Russia to use dollars to pay its debt ends. And if she lets that end, there's going to be pain because default's going to happen. Russia has already said they'll pay in rubles. Nah, if you're a U.S. company and owed that money and you take it, you might be violating some act. So I don't know where this all goes. It's very complicated. But the end game is to break Russia financially. The end game is to make them, as it's going to turn out, you watch on this, they're going to have to count on China. And if you've watched America's dealings in China, China is a dirty player. It's that simple. I don't think great in watching their trade with other countries. They didn't like what Australia said. They created a problem there. They don't like what a price is on a cargo of soybeans. They're notorious for in shipment. They go, we don't want it. So you'll say, well, I'm going to sue you. Okay, sue me. Maybe you'll get your money, but you'll never get an order from China again. Now what do? This is the wheel and the way they're going to create this wheel that Russia's getting in, and they will get crushed. They will count on them for the money, and this is a rough player. Believe me, I watch it. Been around commodities my whole life, and they are a rough player. People have asked me, would you do business with them? And I've watched firms do this. Unless you're like a Glencore and these monster companies that can afford to absorb a cargo here, cargo there, because they're making so much on the rest of the business. If you're just a guy that's getting a big order from China and they'll pay you when it gets there, forget it. You got a big problem, because they may just say in transit, you know, we don't really want it anymore. What are you going to do, not do business with them again? Okay, AMD finally getting a little bit of a bounce. We were talking last time I was covering the semiconductors with you that the market was starting to look like it was going sideways. Well, you've actually got now a trend, higher lows, higher highs. The market, however, is under the 18-week average of closes. When you're under that number, that all this means is you have a bear market rally, a correction. You haven't closed over this 18-week average, and until you can prove that you can stay over it, this was just the end of a big decline in the market, not necessarily the beginning of a rally that it can last in the marketplace. When you take a look, you see that you got to the 100-week average. You never did make it for the 200. Couldn't quite get to the lower Bollinger Band, so now you're at that resistance point. And at the same time, the market lost the embedded reading. Any reading over 21, weekly chart or daily chart, it's lost. The only time you can get it back without rebuilding it from scratch, which takes at least a month, would be this week, closing back under 20. Can it do it? I don't know. Right now you're going up for the resistance as I see it at 105.63. As we look at KBE, the bank index, you're in a big support area. I don't like the idea of pressing a 200-day average, the lower Bollinger Band, and now you're just trading between the 100-week average and the lower band. You do have an embedded reading. There's nothing to get bullish on. The question is, do you want to get bearish on rallies? That's how I'm viewing it, not bullish. XLI, sorry about that. Another outside week to the downside, under the lower Bollinger Band. Now, I have a rule of thumb. Never go short under a Bollinger Band. So, yes, I believe in going short. I believe in going long, which is buying. Same things. But I wouldn't buy long over a Bollinger Band, and I wouldn't sell short under one. They snap back on you, and they snap back in quick order, typically. If it doesn't, so what? So I miss a trade. That's how I look at it. Now, what else? Because you have an outside week down, if you take out this past week's high, right here of 95.22, if that were taken out this week we're in or next week, it'd be a pretty good sign that the market's exhausted this leg to the downside and it wants to put a rally on, could be to the 18-week average of closes. You have an embedded reading or not? Well, let's take a look here. On this week, you lost the embedded reading. Now, this is the example that I want to show you. Next week, you jumped right back to 88. You're re-embedded. It's the only time it can happen. And when it happens, generally a sign you caught a group of shorts and the market tries to make a move. I wouldn't be surprised if it tries for the upper Bollinger Band. Back and forth action here, but embedded and still bullish. SPY is still bearish. Lower highs, lower lows, but I'm going to repeat myself. I would never tell a client to go short under a Bollinger Band. I don't care what it does. I would never do it. Go back and look. You have a way of regretting that type of trade. Rally's interesting, but an outside week down. Again, if you take out this week's high, this week coming up or next week, I'd be concerned. We'll see what happens there. GLD, you have a higher high, lower low. That the battleground is the 100-week average of closes. Momentum is down, bias is down, but you are not trending. In the gold miners, it's the 200-week that the market has decided to pay attention to. Now, if these give ground, then I look for the Bollinger Band here, and I'd look for the Bollinger Band there. But the markets act like they don't really want to get through those key numbers. Does that mean you're ready to just go vertical to the upside? No. But it's a support area that the market has found. ARK, I realize all these people keep throwing all this money at Cathie Woods. I don't get it. I mean, does anything here look bullish to you? And she keeps getting inflows. I mean, her fund has to be the classic case of a loser this year. All right, and I guess they like her long-term philosophy. The problem is that philosophy can break you. And the reason is, in bear markets, has she shown you what those stocks might and might not do? Probably not. You know why? We haven't had a bear market in over 10 years. You're in a bear market. You're in a classic bear market. This is not a flash in the pan bear market. You are in a bear market. They don't end quickly. We have not seen the pain that you need to say to call it an end of the day, okay? Sometimes they end with a whimper. Other times it's a big scream. Values get absolutely crazed. Rallies, you'll see. In a true bear market, they don't hold as well. Not at all. And remember the bull market, how the breaks would happen and they didn't stay down? They came snapping back. All you've done is you've flipped. And if you don't understand that, it's hard. You're not going to get the meme guys. They're not there. These Robinhood players don't know bear markets. They have no idea what to do in them, nor am I convinced that Robinhood will let them go short. So those type of traders, they're sidelined. If they're not, they're probably broke. Lower highs, lower lows. Amazon, 4 weeks in a row under the lower band. It's ripe for a bounce. You can go 5. It's rare you go beyond 5 weeks under a Bollinger Band in a row. Apple down to the big 100-week average. It's now 2 weeks in a row under the lower band. It can go lower, but I think it's a big call to say that it's going to drop 30% more